Hi, Scott, Machine Gun Dad. Look at this. Let me tell you a story. If you saw the header, it's Scott versus the fascist state. Well, the fascist state is California. So let's go back 8 or 9 years. There's an estate in California. They have 3 submachine guns. They were trying to get them transferred out of California. They went through a couple different dealers. It ended up in my lap. So I started the process. The federal government has been requested to provide copies of the Form 4s or the Form 1s, because these are amnesty registered, 5 times. Once before I started and 4 times since then. They refused to provide those copies to the owners of these guns. So we submitted the submachine gun serial numbers, and then COVID hit, and then you couldn't get anybody at the NFA to answer any questions. So the NFA said, well, you didn't respond in a timely manner, so we're going to return your money. So we wasted 3 years on that. Started again. The second time, it went to a lady who was new, but she was willing to do the research. So her boss apparently wouldn't let her acknowledge I was the point of contact for the owner. The owner, being elderly, didn't know anything about guns other than he played with them as a kid because his dad welded up the barrels. Couldn't answer any of the questions. So they would send the forms back to California, which they would be sent to me. I'd make the corrections, and then I'd have to send them back to California, and it was just a disaster. And then they wouldn't accept the fact that since the father had died 20 years ago and his estate was settled, that you needed an executor. So we had to get whatever the form that California requires for that to reopen part of the estate, got that form. And finally, after six and a half years, they approved those transfer of those 3 guns to me. All 3 of them had welded up barrels. All 3 of them we reactivated because they are registered for them. They were transferable guns, amnesty registered. They were welded up by the owner because he lived in the People's Republic of California. And this was back in the 70s. So I sold them. Within 3 days of them being activated, they were sold. Took me 7 years to get them. Took me 3 days to get rid of them. Unfortunately, I can't afford transferable. So that brings us to these: a Lewis gun, an aircraft Maxim, an MG34, anti-balloon Vickers for an aircraft, and an 0815. All part of the same estate. California, in their infamous fascist ways, made it illegal to ship guns by private citizens. This would have been told. I didn't bother to keep pissed with the state of California. And it also makes it illegal to ship parts. So even though these are deactivated, they couldn't ship them. Nobody would take them. So in California, you take the gun to a dealer and he ships it. Well, there are no Class 3 dealers in California that do retail sales because you're not allowed to have these in California. So they couldn't even take them to a dealer to get them shipped. So these guns are sitting in storage in California, and there's no way to get them to me. The people don't want to drive to Nevada, pack it up and ship it from Nevada. So what happens? I rent a car and I drive to California. So how did that work? Well, I have an SOT. I had a repair letter drawn up and signed by the owners of these guns. That's all great in every state but California. So we drove into Vegas, and this is going up. If you're seeing these guns have already transferred to me, so fuck California. Drove to Vegas, stayed in Vegas, made arrangements where they were stored, got up the next morning at like 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, drove straight to California, did not pick the guns up, went and got lunch, came back, restroom break, loaded the guns in the car, 3 bottles of water each, full tank of gas, and we got in the car and back. Now, the 90 miles or so we had to do in California, my asshole was like this big, because California don't give a fuck if I have a federal firearms license, or I have an SOT, or I have a repair letter, or these guns are in the registry. It's a fascist state. There's a good chance they're going to take these guns and keep them and destroy them. So right now I'm going to insert a little video where I crossed the line with my camera on to freedom. I'll insert that video right now. The moment 5 LMGs escaped fascist California. You just saw the short video of these guns becoming free again. All these guns are transferable. All these guns are in some stages of dewadding. In other words, the owner welded up a barrel or something like that. Some are going to be very simple to reactivate. And then some will probably be sold as is. Aircraft guns, for example, on finding parts for Vickers, complete parts that would make this unjustifiably expensive. I'm going to clean them up, and I'm going to do my very best to get the guy whose state they came from the most amount of money he can get for these guns. So the cool thing is, as these guns become live, Nick's going to shoot them. Thanks for coming to the channel.